Welcome to the Success with Jewelry podcast, where we invite you inside our conversations about business success and marketing for jewelry designers and entrepreneurs.
We're Laryssa and Liz, jewelry marketing experts with a combined 16 years of experience in jewelry marketing and proven track records in helping jewelry brands meet their goals. When you listen to or watch this podcast, you get an intimate and exclusive peek behind the curtain of all the things you wish you could know about earning success in this industry.
Welcome to episode number 57. In this episode, Laryssa and I are going to discuss AI and how you might be able to use it in your business. We're going to cover what is AI and what do we think about it, and can AI help your business? We also want to tell you about our insider community. When you join, you'll have access to extended episodes full of tips that you can start implementing today and further resources about each topic we discuss. In the bonus content of this episode, we share some ways you can consider using AI in your business. To get access to exclusive content as well as direct access to me and Laryssa, sign up by visiting successwithjewelry.com. Hey Laryssa, let's get into it.
Oh, wow. This is a really hot topic. And when you told me you wanted to talk about it, I was kind of like, wow, do we want to open up this can of worms? I'm not sure.
I know. Laryssa had just landed from a trip to speak. Where were you speaking? In Istanbul?
In Istanbul, yeah.
And you just got back and you probably open up your email and you're like, Liz wants to talk about AI?
I mean, I'm down for it, but it's a big can of worms.
It's a big can of worms. So we're going to talk about it from our standpoint. I think Laryssa has a wider knowledge about this than I do, but the inspiration was on the same day I had two clients ask me about AI. And if you listen to our Chat GPT episode, I'm a lot more hesitant about all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was kind of curious. I mean, we won't reveal it on this episode because it's kind of confidential, but I'm like, Liz, tell me about your clients. What do they want to know? Because it's interesting to me, from the business perspective, what are these businesses thinking about AI? What do they imagine it can do? What do they want it to do? And then thinking through the actual reality of what it can do is interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I've been working for a long time and I've been consulting for a long time. And what I find is that whenever there's a hot topic in the news, it eventually is going to come my way, and it's going to come in the form of a question from a client. And I was kind of expecting it with AI, but not really, because, AI is interesting. And as I was writing the outline for this episode, I was like, a lot of people are already using it. And I think the reason why it came up for me from clients and why it's so such a hot topic right now is because the way it's spoken about is it saves you time, it optimizes what you're doing, and the machines are smarter than the humans, essentially, is the way that when you read headlines about it, the way it's pitched.
I feel like any new thing that comes into marketing, I mean, now I'm trying to think of an example. When it's first introduced, everyone's like, oh, this is the answer. I need to know how, this is going to fix everything. And I don't think AI is different from that. It's a tool, but it's not, we'll talk about this more. It's not the be all end all of all the things.
Right. It's not a magic thing. So I mentioned when you said that TikTok was one, Threads is another, on a smaller scale, but those are things that came out and it kind of shook things up, and people were like, oh, I have to shift strategy and figure out how to use this. But first off, what is AI? It's artificial intelligence, and it's essentially is a machine's ability to perform the cognitive functions we usually associate it with human minds. And we talked about this a little bit in our episode about Chat GPT, but we didn't get into really what we think about it.
Yeah. So Liz sent me an article, Megan Auman. Where did you find this article, by the way?
So Megan Auman is great. So if you're an independent artist, you might know her. She is a designer, but she also has great resources for other handcrafted designers. And actually, you might have met her briefly when we went to that little show at that hotel in New York that Megan put on. She does really statement-y handcrafted jewelry, but again, she provides resources to artists as well. And so I saw her post about this article and saying that she was taking an Instagram break. And then I clicked to the article, and it's really a problem with AI. And I think she raises some interesting points. That I think is where I kind of feel uncomfortable with some of the uses of AI. And essentially this article is asking, and we'll link it in the show notes, but is it ethical? How can creatives who have their work run through AI get compensated? Because a lot of times, like when we're talking about Chat GPT, it's like, okay, well, find like copy you do like, or find the way you want it to sound, and then you can run it through, and then you can ask it a question to like write something similar.
Mhm. Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting article. It did bring up a lot of points. It was cool to hear from her perspective, like as a creative, and have she's been doing this for, I think she said like 20 plus years. And so I liked hearing her perspective.
I've heard of artists at this point using AI or Chat GPT to like type in like, how would you lay out this painting?
Mhm.
Or what design would you create for a sculpture or something like that? So then it's like you're using it to create art, I guess. And that feels weird to me.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see how that's weird. But at the end of the day, the artist is the one doing like the prompting too. So there is like that human interventional element. It's not like Chat GPT or whatever, just coming up with it like out of the ether, you know? So there is that too, but it does take away like pure human, like creativity, innovation, etc.
Right. And I think the point she was getting at, although I understand where you're coming from, because it's not necessarily plagiarizing, but I think the point she's getting at is, you know, AI gets smarter from all of the things that you put in it, right? So if you're putting in stuff that other people spent a lot of time writing, that's completely original, it's again not plagiarizing, but how does that person get compensated who originally wrote the thing?
Yeah, it's such an interesting point. This is like maybe kind of snooty, but like so I went to grad school for writing, and like something that we talked about, I don't know if it was just in one class, but it was something I remember really thinking about a lot, is like when you are a writer, when you are an artist, like, and you study that, you come from a tradition of like everyone who came before you. And at a certain point, you're like, is this even an original thought that I have? Or is it like coming from something else in my subconscious that I've like learned? And it's like almost like an existential question that you have about like your own creativity. And I think AI is like a little bit similar to that, because AI is just trained on like everything that's come before. And people are a little bit like that too.
Interesting way to think about it. That's a really valid point, I think. I think it's hard. I think, yeah, I think a lot of things. I don't know. Oh gosh, what do I want to say? I think also just like the like pulling visuals from artists. I understand. I think it's so smart of her to ask like how do artists get compensated? But you're right, Laryssa. Like how does like Hemingway get compensated for everybody that's like inspired by his,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I'm a product of like everyone who came before me, even in marketing, people I've studied, you know, like I didn't come up with these ideas out of like my own nothingness. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. I think it's even I think the line is more clear when it's like you're using AI to create images and you're
Yeah.
like pull this image from this person or like whatever. I think that's a more straightforward line um in terms of like stealing and like somebody not getting compensated
Hmm.
because I think the images are tough. But I think it's like it's so hard. Like, where's the world going from here? Where are we going from here? Is marketing all going to turn out the same? Because, like, when I scroll through my feed now, it does feel pretty boring.
But in a way, and this is something we talk about all the time, even before AI, I feel like there was like a samification
Yeah,
of
definitely.
things in jewelry, especially everyone talks about jewelry in the same freaking boring way. Yeah, AI is probably going to make that worse, but I think customers are going to like reject that at a certain point, because how friggin' boring is that?
Right. And I think that's why people are burnt out on Instagram or why you're not getting as much engagement. It's because it's like, okay, well, how many times can I see the same thing? But at the same time, you and I coach on like consistency and like consistently showing up and all of that. And that is important, but it's also important to like know your brand voice. So
Mhm.
I think we talked about this with ChatGPT. Is like, if you are using it as a tool to help you write, make sure you're still coming and editing it and making sure it sounds like you.
Yeah, I think it could be a good companion. It has helped my clients who really struggle with writing to at least get like a first draft or something. And then they can take that and polish it and add their own spin to it, their own details. So for someone who like really can't write or doesn't want to or is like terrified by a blank page, I think that's pretty useful and helpful.
So the last point I wanted to make about that article, and then we'll get into like, can AI help your business? But is that, are we too focused on short-term results and hyper productivity? And we kind of are, because we have to keep showing up when there's so much noise. Your brand, and Laryssa and I coach this, you've heard this from us, like you have to show up regularly, like weekly emails, like, at least 5 days a week doing Instagram posts and things like that. And so you kind of have to do that. And I think artists are so burnt out that any tool that can help is, not necessarily a bad thing.
I know I feel pressure to work AI into my workflow because I wouldn't get things done
Mhm.
otherwise. Like it's like a necessity at this point.
And there's aspects of AI, which we're going to get into this in the bonus content much further, but there's aspects of AI that don't have to do with ChatGPT or like
Mhm.
using writing or pulling images or anything like that. So if that feels like where you draw your line, you don't have to use that aspect of
Mhm.
AI. But
Yeah,
a lot of
definitely.
us are already using it for other things. So let's answer this question of like, can AI help your business? The short answer is definitely yes.
Yeah. And I think that it's worthwhile to explore the different tools that are out there and try them. You don't have to love them, you don't have to use them, but I think it's important to know what is possible because you could be missing out on something that really could help your business if you just are like, no, I don't want to use AI at all. And you're kind of putting on blinders to it.
Yeah. And so I think that circling back to what I said at the top of the episode is that a lot of people are like jumping to talk about it or jumping to use it because it's being talked about in this way where it like can really optimize what you're doing. So like if you run your Instagram captions through it, it'll make them better. Or if you're trying to figure out like hashtags or SEO keywords or things like that, like it will be the answer for you and it's going to make your business so much better. But it's just like not a magic tool.
Yeah, I know. I was caught up on the word better. I think that was like when one of your clients had said that this will make it better, but like better to who and for what end and like who is benefiting from that. Better is such like a subjective thing in marketing. Also, what the heck does that even mean?
What does that mean? I mean, it's hard not to hear, oh, I think that this thing is smarter than you.
Yeah, right.
It's hard not to hear
I've
that.
gotten it. I literally had someone in like a consultation straight up tell me like, "Oh, we could just give this to AI by basically." And I was like, "Good luck with that. Good luck."
That's like what I said in the chat GPT episode is like, I'm scared that it's going to take my job. But I think that what I know is that AI will never fully replace human jobs. Like we'll never really
Mhm.
replace you and I.
No. I'm not really afraid of it. I mean, it's annoying to me that people have that attitude, but they'll learn.
They'll learn. You're right. They'll learn. All right. So have you considered using AI? Let us know. You can visit successwithjory.com to sign up for the extended episode as well as exclusive content. Thank you so much for listening.